There are moments in life when everything around you seems normal, when the world continues its rhythm as if nothing is out of place. Yet inside, quiet tension rises, a voice unspoken but felt, a stirring in the heart that refuses to be silenced. This is not fear. This is not imagination. This is a warning that comes not from men, not from chance, but from a higher source, a whisper that enters your spirit at night, a discomfort that follows you in the day, a sudden pause before you take a step. Most people dismiss it. They call it coincidence. They cover it with distractions, with noise, with the endless race for more. But what they are ignoring is not small. It is not harmless. It is the voice that stands between them and regret. When God sends a warning, it is never to destroy you. It is to protect you from what you cannot yet see. To protect you from the storm that is already forming in silence. The tragedy of many lives is not that they were never warned, but that they were too busy, too proud, too distracted to listen. If you feel restless right now, if your life has been repeating the same pain, the same mistakes, if you sense that something is urging you to change but you keep delaying, it is not by accident that you are hearing this message today. This is not chance. This is alignment. Stay with me until the end of this speech, not because my words have power, but because the warning you have ignored for too long may find its echo here. And when you finally recognize it, when you finally listen, it may become the very turning point of your destiny. There are many kinds of warnings in life. Some arrive with great noise, with sudden events that shake us awake. But the most powerful warnings are not loud. They are quiet. They arrive clothed in silence. They whisper instead of shout. They do not demand attention, but they pull at the heart in ways we cannot easily explain. When you lie in bed at night and everything is calm, yet something inside you refuses to rest, that is not emptiness, that is a message. It is a signal that what appears normal on the surface is not aligned beneath. Most people ignore this silence because they expect warnings to come in obvious ways. They expect thunder, lightning, or a dramatic sign. But God's way is often different. He speaks through stillness, through that strange emptiness you feel even when everything looks complete. Through that discomfort that lingers when you are about to make a choice. Through that sudden lack of peace when your soul knows what your mind wants to deny. This silence is not empty. It is full of direction, full of meaning, full of urgency. Yet how often do people cover it? They feel the silence and they run to noise. They fill their days with endless busyness, with entertainment, with distraction. They cannot bear to sit in the quiet because the quiet reveals what they do not want to face. They scroll endlessly, they chase goals, they drown themselves in activity just to escape the message that still waits in silence. But running from silence does not erase the warning. It only delays the moment you must face it. If you look back on your life, you may realize that some of your greatest regrets were not because you lacked signs. The signs were there. The silence was there. The unease was there. You simply ignored it. You called it overthinking or fear or coincidence. You brushed it aside. And only later, when consequences unfolded, you understood that silence had spoken the truth long before the storm arrived. The silence is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It does not come to paralyze you, but to guide you, to make you pause before you step into harm, to remind you that not every path is safe simply because it is popular, to remind you that not every decision is right simply because it feels convenient. The silence is sacred. It is God's way of pulling you back, of giving you one more chance to choose wisely. So when silence speaks, do not ignore it. Do not drown it with noise. Do not treat it as emptiness. Lean into it. Listen to it. Because within that silence lies the warning that may save your life, your peace, and your future. There is a great danger hidden in the habit of waiting. Many people believe they will have time later, time to change, time to pray, time to walk away from what they know is wrong. They hear the inner voice, they sense the warning, but they calm themselves with the promise that tomorrow will be the day they act. What they do not realize is that every delay is not harmless. Every delay builds a wall around the heart. And with each moment of postponing, the voice of truth becomes fainter, while the chains of habit grow stronger. Delayed obedience is not obedience at all. When you know the right thing, when you feel the clear pull to move in a certain direction, yet you choose to wait, you are still making a choice. That choice is disobedience wrapped in the disguise of patience. You may tell yourself you are waiting for a better time, for clearer confirmation, for life to be calmer, but beneath those excuses lies fear, lies attachment, lies the refusal to surrender. And each time you push away the nudge, your spirit becomes a little less sensitive, a little less willing to listen. Think about how many people felt they had more time to take care of their health, more time to mend a broken relationship, more time to walk away from destructive habits. They delayed and delayed until the warning became reality, until the storm broke and they discovered there was no more time left to prepare. What began as a gentle whisper of the soul turned into consequences that could no longer be ignored. You see, God does not send warnings for His sake. He sends them for yours. And when you treat them lightly, when you keep postponing, it is not His voice that becomes weaker. It is your heart that becomes harder. A hardened heart no longer hears clearly. It no longer feels the urgency. It convinces itself that everything is fine when in truth it is walking closer and closer to destruction. There is a reason why change feels urgent when it first arrives in your heart. It is because you are still soft enough to hear, still open enough to shift. But the longer you wait, the more that softness begins to close. The habit of delay becomes the habit of denial. And soon you are no longer waiting to obey, you are simply ignoring altogether. Do not deceive yourself with the comfort of later. Later is not guaranteed. Later is not promised. The only time you are given, the only moment you truly hold is now. To postpone obedience is to reject it. To ignore the call is to choose against it. And every time you silence that inner voice, you are teaching yourself to live deaf to the very guidance meant to save you. This is why the greatest danger is not in the warning itself, but in your delay to respond. There is something mysterious about the way life repeats itself. You face the same kind of struggle again and again. You meet the same kind of people who hurt you in the same kind of way. You fall into the same habits that you once promised yourself you would never return to. At first it feels like bad luck. It feels unfair, almost as if life has singled you out. But in truth, repetition is not punishment. It is revelation. The cycles that keep coming back are not accidents. They are warnings. When the same lesson returns, it is because you did not yet learn what it was meant to teach. When the same doors close, it is because you are still trying to force what was never meant for you. When the same pain keeps rising, it is because your soul is trying to show you what your mind refuses to accept. Repetition is God's way of making sure you do not miss what is essential. You may think you are standing still, but each cycle is like a mirror being held up to you, asking, will you finally see? Will you finally listen? Too many people ignore these cycles. They call it bad timing or bad people or bad luck. They keep running into the same walls, but they never ask themselves why the wall keeps appearing. They choose to complain about the pattern instead of breaking it. And by doing so, they waste years repeating the same season, walking in circles, never realizing that what they call destiny is simply disobedience to the warning. Think of the moments where you said, why does this always happen to me? That question is not one of despair. It is an invitation to notice. It is God's way of turning your attention inward so you can see the choices that keep shaping your life. The repeated pain is not there to destroy you. It is there to wake you up. To show you that you are not moving forward because you are carrying the same weight, walking the same road, trusting the same illusions. Until you change, the cycle will not change. The truth is simple but difficult to accept. Life repeats what you do not repair. God will allow the same lesson to return, not because He has abandoned you, but because He loves you too much to let you walk blindly into destruction. Every repeated warning is a chance to finally rise above what has been holding you down. Every cycle is an invitation to stop wandering and start transforming. So when life keeps bringing you back to the same point, when the same lesson knocks on your door again, do not turn away. Do not waste the moment by blaming others. Listen to what is being shown. Because repetition is not coincidence. It is a divine warning waiting for your response. There always comes a moment when the warnings you have ignored no longer return in whispers, but arrive as a final call. This is the point where life itself shifts, where God places before you a choice so clear that to ignore it is no longer delay, it is destruction. Many do not recognize this moment because it rarely appears in the form they expect. It does not always come with a dramatic vision or a voice from the sky. More often, it comes as something you might overlook. A sudden ending, a door that refuses to open no matter how hard you push, a relationship that unexpectedly falls apart, or an opportunity that slips away before you can grasp it. What feels like loss in that moment is often the very hand of God pulling you away from greater disaster. It is human nature to cling to what feels familiar, even when it is slowly draining us. People beg for things to stay the same, even when the same is no longer safe. They cry over what ended, never realizing that the ending was not punishment but protection. This is why the final warning is often wrapped in pain, because only pain has the power to make you release what you would otherwise hold on to forever. Think of how many times in life people pray for guidance, but when guidance comes in the form of a closed path, they resist it. They see only the door that shut, not the fire that was waiting behind it. They mourn what they think they lost, never realizing that what they lost was the very thing that would have broken them beyond repair. God's final warning is always an act of mercy, though at the time it rarely feels like it. When this moment arrives, the choice is simple but heavy. You can surrender and step into the unknown, trusting that the warning was not meant to harm you, or you can resist and try to rebuild what was never meant to last. To surrender is difficult because it demands faith. To resist is easier in the short term but devastating in the long term. Many ignore the final warning because they cannot bear to let go, and in holding on, they invite the very destruction the warning came to prevent. There comes a time when you cannot negotiate with God's warning. There comes a time when hesitation is no longer an option. The final chance before the shift is not given endlessly. It is a window. And when the window closes, the weight of consequences begin. If you feel something in your life ending, if you sense that God has been shutting certain paths, if you know deep down that you are being asked to walk away, do not fight against it. Do not mistake protection for punishment. What feels like the end may actually be the beginning, and what feels like loss may be the very thing that saves your life.